Hello, I'm Rabbi Joel Alter of Milwaukee's congregation Beth Israel Ner Tamid, here with some thoughts on this week's Parshiot, Acharei and Kedoshim. I don't know about you, but I'm having some trouble these days keeping track of time. The days and the weeks flow quickly, one into the other. The days and time has a sameness, a quality of sameness to it, where it's difficult sometimes to distinguish one day from the next. Space, though, is something else entirely. With the safer at home orders that we are living under, uh, space has been redefined for us, and we've become particularly conscious of interior space and outside space, of safe space and risky space, and especially of those 6 feet of distance that those of us who are able to go outside must maintain between ourselves and people outside our immediate family, that is to say, those who already live with us. And with this in mind, 2 verses in our Parshiot caught my attention in a new way. At Vayikra 19, verses 9 and 10, we read, Uvekutzrechem et kitzir artzechem, lo tchale pa'at tzadcha liktzor, veleket kitzircha lo talaket. When you reap the harvest of your land, you shall not reap all the way to the edges of your field or gather the gleanings of your harvest. V'charmecha lo te'olel, uferet karmecha lo telaket, le'ani v'lager ta'azov otam, ani Adonai Elohechem. You shall not pick your vineyard bare, or gather the fallen fruit of your vineyard. You shall leave them for the poor and the stranger. I, the Lord, am your God. Now, first of all, these psukim are among those that form the very strong foundation, the long-lasting foundation in Jewish tradition and Jewish practice that is visible across time in Jewish communities, and that is the foundations of communal tzedakah, of personal and communal tzedakah. And I want to recognize the tremendous efforts being made by organizations throughout the local community, beginning but by no means ending with our own Milwaukee Jewish Federation for all the work they are doing to provide for those who are struggling financially and otherwise in this crisis. But the general provision of tzedakah aside, I want to notice in particular the language of verse 9, that one shall not reap all the way to the edges of the field of you shall not reap all the way to the edges of your field. The edges of the field must be left for the poor, for the disenfranchised, for those who need that food, those who, but for your providing it for them, would not have it for themselves. And the important point here is that the owner of the field might rightfully consider that the produce on that land is his or hers. All right, after all, they own the land. In the Torah, they inherited the land. It is their holding, their settlement, their inheritance. They worked the land, they irrigated the land, they cultivated the land, they harvested the harvest, and so they would expect that they have a natural right to the produce on even to the furthest extent of the field. And the Torah says, no, that has to be left for someone else. And I'm thinking about that in connection with the physical distancing, with the 6 feet distance, the 6 feet margin that we must establish between ourselves and those who might encroach, those who might approach us on our way outside. And that we have to, we bristle against that requirement because we assume that we have that we have a natural right to the space immediately around us. That no one can tell us that we can occupy this space but not that space, that we can go this far but no further. But under the current rules, we are mandated to maintain this zone of distance, that we are mandated to mark that 6 foot line between ourselves and others. For that 6 foot line is a margin of safety, right? We go so far as to say that that 6 foot line is the line of life, that the potential for virus, the potential for violation is within that line. And so that 6 foot line, that 6 foot boundary around ourselves is the line of life. And while I know it is stretching the verse far, far beyond its original intent, I am struck by the notion that a zone, the edge of what we naturally assume to be ours, where we would expect to have free reign and full reign, in fact is not ours. That in fact it is assigned, it is assigned to someone else, or it is assigned or held in reserve in regard for someone else. And the Midrash addresses this verse very powerfully, where it says, "Tzarich lahaniach leket v'shichecha upe'ah," that one is required to leave that which one might gather, even if one forgot it, that the corner of the field has to be left. Why? Mishum shene'emar v'chai achicha imach. That it says further along in Leviticus at chapter 25, verse 35, that we have obligations to look out for the other, to raise up the other, to protect the vulnerable other among us, so that one's fellow, in the language of the Torah, one's brother, may live together with you. And then the Midrash explains that in assigning us our land, and remember that the Torah, as the Torah understands it, the territory in the land was specifically assigned not only to the 12 tribes, but to the individual families within those tribes. This was their inheritance, their family settlement. And in relation to that, the Midrash explains, but God did not settle you in the land, you alone. The land is not yours alone. Ki laronai ha'aretz umloa. Ultimately, the land is not yours. Ultimately, the land belongs to God. God is the ultimate claimant, the ultimate owner, the ultimate landlord of all of the land and all that is in it. And so it's for God to say what is yours and what is not yours. That the edge of your field belongs to someone else, to the person who needs what's there. And so I think as we quite understandably bristle and struggle with the continuing orders to stay at home, to maintain physical distancing, I think that not only is this image of this zone of life at the edge of our personal territory is to me striking and compelling, but also the concept that motivates that, the concept that undergirds that teaching, that requirement, and that concept is that what is ours is not entirely ours. We don't have a total claim to that which is ours, that a portion of what is ours must be held in reserve in regard for and to protect and preserve the life and well-being of another. Shabbat Shalom.